actually just about all albums. It's from Groom Girl, and she was saying, have you ever considered releasing an a cappella version of any of your albums in part or whole, or releasing an a cappella EP of some sort, material, old, new? Because I would love to hear some of that.
Great idea. We're going to steal it.
We're going to steal that.
We just stole that idea just now.
Hey, Ike, didn't you have some great idea?
I had a great idea. We should release an EP.
You're like the FedEx guy, where they say it, and then you're like, we should do.
We should release an EP. that takes all of our music and makes it into just vocals.
Then you hear the girl on the other end say, well, that's weird. I said that idea, and you guys weren't into it. And you're like,
yeah, but I did this and this.
Okay, we're geeks.
That's awesome. We're quoting FedEx commercials.
It was a great commercial. I'll give it to FedEx.
I just realized we're not even eating our cake. I'm gonna pop this cherry here.
Spread the cake. Gosh, I'm clicking through questions so fast trying to get to them, but I have a question about The Walk, asking about what the process was like writing that song in particular and what it means to everyone, what the song's about. So the song The Walk is interesting because we wrote that song before the album was finished. I mean, it was one of the earliest songs written for the record.
Clearly
that later became called.
Well, it was on the
album's not necessarily titled before it's finished. So, and we also knew that album was going to be called The Walk really early on. The whole time we were making it, we thought it was going to be called The Walk, and that's not usually the case. Like, we finished the new album, Shout It Out, and had no idea what we were going to call it, and really went back and forth with different ideas for a long time. And then
it was partially because of touring that the title of the new record, Shout It Out.
I don't really care about that. This is good cake.
Exactly. But
when you get the most expensive cake, the best cake,
it's always good.
You reap the rewards.
Exactly.
Your taste buds.
Exactly.
Well, could you divvy it out, dude?
Oh, this is all mine.
But I was just going to say that in more detail, but touring on the Walk Around the World tour, which was at the end of 2009, doing that tour and then also playing. Actually, this is the Stand Up tour.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
Stand Up tour, doing that, and then playing new music and playing songs like Waiting for This, which has the Shout It Out refrain in it, and just some of that other stuff. It created a scenario in which I think we realized, wow, that's the right title. It rose to the top.
I'm going to slightly correct you and say that you're right. We didn't know that Shout It Out was going to be the title, but that idea, like, we hadn't decided. Well, but The Walk was one of those names that was like really early on. It was like, this album should be called The Walk.
It was before Taylor. It was like 2003 when the song was written.
The next album
the next album should be called The Walk. It was just a great title.
I think that song is essentially about, don't lose yourself in your fear. Don't be afraid to do something that might be hard, and that, I think, is what we felt like we were doing, which was not being fearful and doing something that was hard, and continuing to be the band with the record label and putting a lot on our shoulders. And so I think it was just a very appropriate thing to call that record. And that song, I think, probably came out of that thought process of just saying, I'm struggling. We're working really hard, and sometimes you don't feel like you're getting the benefit of the amount of work you're doing, but you still keep pushing through it. And I think
because you believe in where you're headed and kind of having that absolute confidence, like the walking the tightrope is that, it's that balancing act, and the fact that you're talking about, like, The Walk is not exactly like a get psyched type of a title. It's like, The Walk, monster truck rally. It's not like come down to the walk. It's about patience and about kind of certainty and following through. And we had people on our team that even during that process that changed over because they looked at us and were like, "You're doing, no, well, just all the things that went with that album, like." Yeah. The walks, literally, and the message and the stuff that we were talking about, and kind of how we felt like that album was meant to play out,
Yeah.
So
This is good.
It's got a lot of sugar in it, which is
Makes it good.
I know, that's why I got that coffee, but I'm glad it was chocolate
I'm
too, because
seriously
I am a
buzzed.
chocolate
I'm
fan.
buzzing right now from that
Okay.
cake.
Yeah.
Another question. This is a question about this time around. Candy Girl Hanson. I don't know. Was there a reason why you left out "Don't Wander Through This Glassy Surface" verse from "Song to Sing" on the recording of the album? Thanks for the past 13 years. That's what she said.
Well, I mean, the simple answer is we decided that for
We're gonna
one
edit it.
it was too long. The song was really long, and on the new album, the song "Me, Myself, and I,"
We didn't make
that decision. We decided to leave it really long. And what was funny is when we played it at 5:05, when we reached like 4 minutes, people were like, "Yay!" We're like, no, it's still going. That's kind of what A Song to Sing was.
I'm just gonna say there is an edit without the third verse that we had listened to, but of the new off the new record, the new song.
The other side,
Me, Myself, and I, which you guys obviously were a part of watching the Shout It Out 5 of 5 event online.
The other thing about that verse was that those lyrics really stood alone. I felt like as a
Poem?
short poem, and they kind of said something that was different. And I always liked the idea of leaving some things sort of hidden and cloaked, and I think we've done that in our lyrics a lot, so that people that are actually listening or actually looking sort of understand more than the first listen. And I think everything that we've done, and it's always nice to sort of have like, okay, this is what you think when you first see it, and then when you go deeper, you get that there's all this other stuff. And so the idea that
we like to cloak stuff in subtlety.
Well, just the idea that there
and
was
synonym.
Well, that there was a story there was like another deeper thought, another further example of what that song meant, and also that it felt like that verse connected a little bit with the whole story of that album. You sort of purpose, is important, and I think oftentimes that's been in our story, but this time around felt like an album that was really it was just about going forward with what we were feeling and the sound we were wanting to create, sort of regardless of what else was going on. We should
That cake
pretty
was
soon
good.
we should play them some music and do these paintings.
I agree. I had one more question that I thought was kind of cool and a little more thought-provoking about just kind of the past 13 years.
Boxers.
You guessed it.
That was the answer.
I have a question about Middle of Nowhere, asking, well, I guess it's really not about Middle of Nowhere, but asking if Mercury Records had never folded, do you think you guys would have stayed with them, or where would you have been?
The answer is I think there's a hell of a lot better chance we would have.
Well, yes, but I think the true answer, though, is all the major labels in the last 10 years have gone through a very, very similar process. In fact, even a lot of the indies that have gotten swallowed up, where I think inevitably we would have been faced with the same questions about like being swallowed up into the corporate system or not. And
I think this time around definitely would have gone differently.
Oh my God! Yeah, that album would have been a complete. I mean, we don't really talk about that much, but this time around was actually the first album truly affected by the merger, because the label that we struggled with when we made Underneath and then left
as that record.
Yeah, they were actually the label that put This Time Around out, which was, I think, in a lot of ways, we struggled to sort of get them to understand that album, which was why Underneath was so hard.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's the untold story. That's the behind the music part of that story.
Those kind of questions, it's always such a hard thing to think about, because I mean it's really such an alternate reality, because if Mercury hadn't folded, that might have meant that the music business had made totally different choices, and then it might have been a good place to be. You might have been with people who were really being entrepreneurs and really diving into new technologies and digital technologies and making that their business, and making, connecting with fans their business, rather than kind of the way the business did turn around. And so
Why do I think that's unlikely?